Good morning, everybody. Today I'm going to review with you the practice that you had on Thursday, where you began reviewing fractions on a number line. So I will walk you through this, and this will help you with today's assignment as well, which is similar but also different. And then I will review that video with you tomorrow. Okay, so let's begin here. When you're looking to find the number of equal parts, you need to count between 0 and 1 to see how many spaces there are. You're not counting the lines, you're counting the spaces or the jumps. So here, begin at 0 and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this number line is divided into eighths. Moving on to the next one. We have starting at 0 and counting to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is divided into fourths. Now this number line is different, and there will be one like this on the same slide today that you will see. And we have to begin at 0, but remember, we have to stop at 1. We are not counting all the way to 2. We have to be able to identify that this number line does not only represent from 0 to 1, but from 0 to 1, and then 1 to 2. So this one is quite different than the others. So let's begin by counting from 0 to 1. 1, 2, 3. So this is divided into thirds. And this one, 1, 2, is halves. And then this number line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is divided into sixths. Okay, now I will move on to the next slide, where you were asked to draw a line and plot the fraction 1/2. So to do that, I know some of you had a little difficulty with it. If you can't draw the line, that's fine. But I will show you how. You click on this line tool, and then you'll see this little cross shape, and we're going halfway. 1/2 is 1 out of 2 parts. So it's right down the middle as best you can using your visual reasoning. Okay, here's the line. And now I'm going to plot 1/2 on that line. And there you have the fraction 1/2 represented on this number line. Now for thirds, it's a little bit more difficult. Okay, 1/3 is definitely less than 1/2. So you can begin by looking at 1/2 and know that it's going to at least be less than that. And you just have to try to space it out with your eyes as best you can. So 1/3 is about right here. And 2/3 is about right here. Okay, there's your 1/3 and your 2/3, and then you drag the fraction to plot it on the line like this. So we have 1/3 and 2/3. Okay, and you can see that the spacing is about the same. I'm not looking for it to be perfect, but at least in the right area. Okay, for fourths, it's best to begin. Whenever you have an even number, it's usually pretty good to begin with the equivalent of 1/2. So if you remember, 2/4 is equal to 1/2 because 2 is half of 4, or the double of 2 is 4. So I'm going to start with this one. Again, you don't really need to do the lines, but I'll do them just to show you. So here's going to be 2/4. And then I'm going to plot 2/4 there. Okay. Now, to find 1/4 and 3/4, look at this space and this space and divide that space in half again. So we will put the line here for 1/4, about halfway between 0 and 2/4 is 1/4. And then about halfway between 2/4 and 4/4, or 1/2, is 3/4. Okay, and there we have about our 1/4 and our 3/4. Again, try to make the spacing equal. If it's a little bit like this one's a little bit bigger than this one maybe, but as long as it's in the right area, close, in the right ballpark, it will be marked correct. Okay, now we're going to use the cards from part B to create two true statements. First, we want to see, is the number line partitioned into halves, thirds, or fourths? To find that, we have to count between 0 and 1. 1, 2, 3. So this is divided into thirds. And then it is 1 jump along. So that's 1 out of the 3, 1/3. And 1/3 is the unit fraction that represents thirds. Okay? For this one, again, we're going to decide what is it partitioned into, how many parts are there, by counting from 0 to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is fourths. And we are at 1, 2, 3 out of the 4. So 3/4. Okay, take another look. 1/4, 2/4, 3 out of the 4, so 3/4. Again, different though, but be careful and count between 0 and 1. So this is 1 right here, not here. And several kids did 1, 2, 3, 4, and they picked fourths. And then they wrote 3/4, like the last one. But be very careful, okay? We're only counting up to the 1. So it's 1, 2, 3. So this is thirds. And since this is on the 1, 2, the second jump, it's 2/3. Several kids wrote 2/6 for this one because they were not careful enough to make sure that they only counted up to the 1. Okay, so I really don't want anyone making that mistake today. Hope that you can avoid it. Just be very careful. Look for the 1. Find where the 1 is first. Okay, moving here, we need to place an X in part A for the number line that represents thirds, and then we have to plot 1/3. So if we look here, this number line is divided into 2 parts, so this is halves. This number line is divided into 1, 2, 3 parts, so we're looking for thirds, but I always like to double check that there's not another example that's correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, so this is fourths. So then 1/3 is the first marking on that number line, okay? So this would be 1/2 and 2/2. This is 1/3, 2/3, and 3/3. And this would be 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. Okay, now you're going to need to plot 1/2 on each number line. 1/2 is a little bit easier to plot. Now today, they're going to ask you to plot, I believe it's 6/6. Remember that whenever the numerator and the denominator are the same, then that fraction represents 1, the whole number 1. Okay, so if this were 2/2 or 3/3 or 4/4 or 5/5 or 6/6, you would plot it on the 1. Okay, but we're doing 1/2 here. So again, that's about exactly half. It's not about exactly halfway, it is exactly halfway, but I'm looking for you to place it as close as you can. As long as you're in the right ballpark, it's correct. Okay, and here we have our 1/2 and our 1/2. They're different sizes because the number lines themselves are different sizes. If I walked down the long hallway of Wilson School halfway, I'd be walking much farther than I would be if I walked halfway across the classroom. So that's why these number lines can be represented, and 1/2 can be represented differently on these two number lines. Almost there. We have to mark 3/4. Now I'm going to use, it doesn't ask you to do this, but I'm going to use the line tool to show you about where each one is. So if this is 1/2 right here. Okay, and then I'll do that same thing here, about 1/2. Okay, because I know that this is 2/4. So again, You can do this if you'd like. So then if I take this in half, that's 1/4, 2/4, and then if I divide this space in half, this is my 3/4 right here, okay? So you can do that to help you. And then again, if this is 1/2 or 2/4, and then I can divide that space in half between 0 and 2/4, will give me 1/4. And then again, if I do that same thing here, between 2/4 and 1, that is my 3/4. Okay, so that can help you to plot 3/4. And then finally here, all right, now there was a little confusion here as well. You have to decide what each denominator is for each number line by counting from 0 to 1. So here, for the first number line is 1, 2, so that's halves. 1, 2, 3, 4, so that's fourths. And then 1, 2, 3, so that's thirds. So let's first look here. An improper fraction means the numerator is greater than the denominator, meaning it's more than 1. It's greater than 1. So this right here, it's 1/2. 2 halves is 1. And then so this is 3 halves. And then if we look at it with a whole number and then a fraction, it is 1 and 1/2. Because 1, 2 parts, so it's 1 and 1/2. It's 2 halves with 1 more half. So 1 is equal to 2 halves plus another 1/2. That's why it's 3 halves, and that's why it can also be written as 1 and 1/2. This one here was 1, 2, 3. This one is fourths. So here we have fourths, 6/4, and I'll just double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6/4. And then that's 1 and 1, 2 fourths. So 1 and 2/4 or 6/4. Here's your 1, and here's your additional 1, 2/4. And finally, we have 1, 2, 3. So it's thirds. 1, 2, 3, 4/3, or 1 and 1/3. Okay, so do your best on today's work. I prefer to review this with you to clarify any mistakes and confusion, and then see if you can apply that to today's lesson. And then I will review that lesson with you tomorrow, and then that'll be Tuesday, and then we'll review Monday, which is the video for today, and Tuesday, and then test on Wednesday. And then that will be it for our first unit of fractions. There is 2 units, and we will see the next one later on Thursday. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a great day.